Okay, guys, we're going to interpret division with fractions. Elise has 6 cups of raisins. She has divided the raisins into 1/4 cup servings. How many servings does she have? You can use a diagram, equations, or story problems to represent it. So let's look over here. How many 1/4 cups are in a cup? Well, I know there are 4/4 equals 1 whole. So there are 4/4 in 1 cup. There are 4 1/4 in a cup. So how many cups does it have? 6. Well, what would that look like if we drew it out? Well, here are my quick cups. And I'm dividing them into 4s. So I have 6 whole cups, and I divide them into 4s. When I do that, it's 6 divided by 1/4, and how many do I have? 4 times 6 equals 24. So how many servings of raisins did I have? I had 24 servings of raisins. I want you to take notice that I started with a whole number and I divided it by a fraction. My quotient was a whole number. That's going to be helpful to know if you're doing it correctly or not. So here's another problem. 4 friends shared 1/4 of a gallon of orange juice. What fraction of the gallon of orange juice does each friend get? So we have 1/4 divided by 4. So here's my gallon. And here's what they say. I've got to break it into whatever it said, and it said I had 1/4. So I have to have 4 equal parts. But the only part we're talking about is this part because that's all the orange juice I have. I only have 1/4 of the whole gallon. So then I said, okay, my friends here get 1 chunk of this. So they're getting 1 out of 4. So they got, right, a relative. So I have 1/4 times 4 equals 1/4 times 1/4 equals 1/16. Because as what I'm changing it to is how much did I get? I got 1/4 of the 4th. So I got 1/4 times 1/4. Because it's easier to multiply a division problem than with fractions. Where did the 16 come from? Well, I have to count how many parts did I get. I got 1 part out of 4, 8, 12, 16. So that's why I got 1 part out of 16 because everything has to be divided equally. Now, if you notice, I started with a fraction in my division problem, and my quotient was a fraction. So let's try another one. Okay, right away when I look at this problem, I'm going to say to myself, it must be a whole number because I have a whole number divided by 1/3. So choose the item that you want to be divided. So in this story problem, write a story problem to represent this. So I could say my story problem is going to be I had 4 sandwiches and I had to cut them into thirds. So how much? I had a third of something. I had 4 sandwiches. I cut them into thirds. And I wanted to know, once I cut them into thirds, how many sandwich pieces did I have? So it's 4 divided by 1/3. And I could quick draw a diagram. I have 4 of them. And if I cut them into thirds, how many pieces do I have? Well, that's really 4 times 3 is 12. I had a whole number. My quotient's going to be a whole number. Here I have a half of one, and I hope you wrote a story problem. I have half of something, and I got to divide it by a whole number. So I had a half a pizza left over, and I had 5 friends over. How much did each friend get? So here's my half a pizza. So I draw the whole pizza. Here's the half I ate, and I know that each friend's going to get a chunk of it. And I've divided it into 5 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, how much did my friend get? Well, here's how much they got. They got 1 out of how many chunks were there all together. You have to count the part that what you do to one side, you do to the other. So I have 10 pieces, so it was 1/10. They got 1/10 of the, and really that's, they got 1/2 times 1/5. If we're going to change it, 1/2 times 1/5 equals 1/10. Because when you start with a fraction, you just times it, times those numbers to get those bottom numbers together, carry over the top number. When you got a whole number, you just times the bottom together. Okay. Hope that's starting to make sense. Okay, so complete. Here it says, complete the story problem to represent 3 divided by 1/4. Carmen has a roll of paper that is how many feet long? Well, it's 3 feet long. She cuts it into pieces that are 1/4. How many pieces does she have? So we have 3 rolls, cuts them into 4s. How many does she have? Well, it's 3 divided by 1/4, the whole number. So I just multiply that bottom number together, and I equals 12. So here we go. Here I have 6 candy bars. And she cuts the bars into halves. So my equation is I have 6 candy bars. I divide them by half. How many candy bars do I have? 12. All right, one more. We'll practice. Here I have 2 friends share 1/4 of a large peach pie. So here it is, and I only have 1/4 left of the pie. So first of all, what do I have? Because that's your dividend. I'm breaking it into 2 equal pieces. So my 1/4, I'm breaking it into 2 equal pieces. And remember, this is all I have is this part here, but I have to do the same thing to all of it. So how much did I get? I got of the pie, that person got 1 out of 8 pieces. So here we just do 1/2, because 1/4 divided by 1/2, or it's really times 1/2, what do you get? 1/8. Started with a fraction, ends with a fraction. All right, I would like you to, on your own, go do 4 and 5. And then head for your homework and remember that rule. I would even think it would be an awesome thing to put that rule down in your notebook about if you start with a whole number and you divide it by a fraction, you end with your quotient has a whole number. If you start with a fraction and you divide by a whole number, your quotient's going to be a fraction. All right, so in this page, I would like you to do 3, 4, and 5. I don't care which one. Pick a story problem to finish. 4 or 5, write a story problem. Okay, let's go back. Let's do 1, 2, 5 or 6, and then 7 or 8. I don't care. On the back, do 1 or 2 and all of the rest.